$100,000 not long ago, that number represented success, a comfortable house, a reliable car, vacations with the family, money invested for retirement, and perhaps most importantly, the feeling that you had finally made it. But today, something strange is happening. People earning six figures are checking their bank accounts before ordering dinner. They are delaying home ownership, carrying credit card balances, and wondering how a salary that once sounded wealthy can disappear before the month is over. In the United States, the average household earned just over $104,000 before taxes, while annual spending reached more than $78,000. And that spending figure doesn't tell the whole story, because where you live, how much debt you carry, and whether you have children can completely transform the meaning of $100,000. So, is a six-figure salary no longer enough? Or have we misunderstood what being rich actually means? Let's start with the number that never makes it into the conversation. $100,000 is not $100,000. It is a headline figure, a number on an offer letter, a thing you say at a dinner party. What actually arrives in your account is considerably less between federal income tax, state income tax, Social Security, and Medicare. A six-figure earner in most of the United States takes home somewhere in the range of $70,000 to $78,000. The exact figure depends heavily on where you live. In a state with no income tax, you keep more. In a high-tax state, noticeably less. But the pattern is the same everywhere. Roughly a quarter of the number that made you feel successful never reaches you at all. And it happens quietly, automatically, before you ever see it. So the salary that sounded like wealth begins its life about $25,000 smaller than advertised. Now watch what happens to what's left. The Bureau of Labor Statistics tracks what American households actually spend. Not what they say they spend, what they spend, and two categories dominate everything else. Housing, $26,266 a year, 33% of all spending. Transportation, $13,318 a year, 17%. Together, those two categories consume more than half of the average American household's entire spending. 50% before a single meal, before insurance, before childcare, before healthcare, before $1 is saved, just a roof and a way to get to work. And here's what makes this different from previous generations. Neither of those costs yours is optional. You cannot negotiate with a mortgage. You cannot skip a car payment because it was a difficult month. You cannot decide not to have somewhere to live. These are not lifestyle choices. They are the price of participating. But there is a number that tells the story more precisely, because the average household is not the household we are actually talking about. So let's look at the exact group. American households earning between $100,000 and $150,000 spent $89,727 in a single year. Read that again. That is the six-figure household. Not the average one, the one that supposedly made it. Nearly $90,000. Going out the door. This is the mechanism almost nobody names. And it has a name. Lifestyle inflation. When income rises, spending does not stay where it was. It rises to meet it. The apartment becomes a house. The used car becomes a newer one. The occasional dinner out becomes a normal Tuesday. And each of those decisions was reasonable. Each one felt earned. But collectively, they did something specific. They converted a raise into a higher cost of being you. The income went up, the margin did not. And this is where it stops being about money and starts being about risk. Because when spending expands to meet income, what disappears is not luxury. What disappears is the cushion. The Federal Reserve asks American adults a simple question every year. Could you cover an unexpected $400 expense using cash or its equivalent? Not $4,000, not $40,000. $400. A car repair, a modest medical bill. In the most recent survey, 63% said yes, which means more than a third of American adults could not. And that number has not moved in 3 years. The Fed also found that just 55% of adults had money set aside to cover 3 months of expenses, down from a high of 59% in 2021. So nearly half of American adults are one lost income away from something serious. Not because they are irresponsible, but because the structure of modern costs leaves very little room between what comes in and what must go out. So let's return to the question, is $100,000 no longer enough? Here's the honest answer. It was never a number. It was always a relationship between what you earn and what your life costs. And a six-figure salary tells you only one half of that equation. Two people can earn exactly the same amount and live in completely different financial realities. One is genuinely secure, the other is one repair away from a crisis. The salary does not determine which one you are. The gap does. This is why wealth is not a number on a paycheck. Wealth is the distance between what arrives and what leaves. That distance is the only thing that ever becomes savings, the only thing that becomes investment, the only thing that becomes freedom. And the uncomfortable truth is that a person earning $60,000 with a 30% gap is building more real wealth than a person earning $200,000 with none. $100,000 for decades, that number meant you had arrived. Today, it means you are in the game. Nothing more. The number on your offer letter was never the thing that made anyone wealthy. What made them wealthy was the space they protected underneath it. And that space is not something your employer gives you. It is the one part of this that was always yours to build. If this changed how you see your own income, leave one word in the comments. Gap. So I know you understood what most people never will. Subscribe. Because next time, we go deeper into the invisible mechanics that decide who builds wealth and who simply earns.